Ashley, let's go to the hotline, and let's bring in the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer himself, the guy who probably knows his own number, even though I gave the wrong number to the producer. We go to the hotline to bring in the Hall of Famer, Craig Way. Hey, Craig, how are you?
Hey, that stuff happens, right? I have that problem all the time.
You're a radio guy. You're a radio professional. I'm sure that's happened to you a number of times.
Many times.
I want to. We are now. This is a good time to talk to you because we're right on that kind of cusp of turning the page over to week 3. But it gives us an opportunity to take a look back at week 2. I think I mentioned on your show that the small school ranks in Texas high school football were the things that stood out most to me. Can you think of anything really in the big school ranks in 6A and 5A that really surprised you coming out of week 2, or was it all just chaos in the small school ranks?
I'm with you, Temp. I thought it was mainly, and you and I talked about this. I know you feel, and I do too, that Holland is going to be a good football team, but you would never have gotten me to say that they were going to get that win over Martin. That really stunned me to see that, and all credit for it for doing it. But that one was the biggest leap off the page moment at me for week 2. Was that one more than any other game across the state of Texas, and it goes right to the heart of what you're talking about we're seeing a little more shakeup in the lower classes, and we normally do see a little bit of that. We saw Martin lose an early season game last year to Franklin. We've seen some other teams in the lower classes, Refugio losing early in the year last year. So it happens. It's just the magnitude of that specific victory, I thought, struck me probably more than anything else.
Yeah, there was we got a message on Facebook or via email that mentioned, and I want to be clear, I have not fact-checked this, so let's just throw this out there as if it's true.
Okay.
That the last time Mart lost at home to an unranked team, and Holland is now in our rankings, by the way, but the last time they lost to an unranked 2A team was October 1983. I would believe it.
Wow.
I would believe it because they're not in the business of losing many games, let alone at home, let alone to unranked teams. But that kind of speaks to how uncommon it was. So that was one that stunned me. The other one was Pottsboro over Gunner. Mainly because we thought Pottsboro was in a bit of a rebuilding year, but to go on the road again and snap a 35-game regular season winning streak, to me, that makes me look at the entirety of 3A Division II. And yeah, Newton and Canadian are still at the top, and they don't look like they're going anywhere. But past that, if Gunner's going to start stumbling a little bit, then suddenly things really open up in that kind of next level of 3A Division II.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. And one thing that we noticed since the breakdown of divisions over the past several years, and it's and probably you put it best when we said last year, let's watch what happens with 5A D1 and D2 at the start of the year, and maybe we'll see some earth-shaking things. And we didn't see as many in the regular season as we saw in the postseason. Now, early on, obviously, in 5A D2, seeing Aledo lose, albeit to a state-ranked 6A, still, it catches you a little unawares and some of the other stuff that happened. But you're right. In the lower classes, we've seen more of it happen. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's, remember, in some of the lower classes, and you and I have talked about this before, the kids there are involved quite often in more than just football. They're involved in lots of other things, and maybe the edge isn't quite as sharp early in the season for some of the smaller classification programs as it is for the larger class programs. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. It's still a small sample size.
We're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. All right, Craig. I know you're a big fan of the multiple choice, so I'll give you a little bit of multiple choice. We have 3 new number ones in the Dave Campbell's Texas football rankings this week. Which one are you buying the most as being able to stay there? Is it 4A Division I, where Argyle is a new number 1? Is it 2A Division II, where Hamlin is the new number 1? Or is it 1A Division I in the 6-man ranks, where Milford is at the number 1 spot?
I'm going to go with Argyle only because of the proven commodity thing. They're there every year. What is it? 10 straight years going to the Sweet 16,
Jeez,
I believe, for Todd Rogers' team. That says something by itself. And they just, were very sound in their first 2 wins over Stephenville and then certainly over La Vega. Probably that. Milford, of course, was the state finalist from a year ago, but I just have a feeling we have more to hear from other schools in that division. Not that we don't in 4AD1. There's plenty of prime contenders. It's just I think Argyle is better suited to handle that. And for Hamlin, hey, it's a great story and it's a great start. They are kind of the teen boy band. They're the new kids on the block. So, let's see what happens with that newly minted number 1 ranking for the Pied Pipers.
Yeah, and we talked with Russell Lucas on Football Friday on Fox Sports Southwest this weekend, and I remember thinking, I was like, man, okay, so Mart lost and Falls City lost. Well, who's going to be number 1? And it just struck me, and like my eyes got real wide. I was like, man, the Hamlin Pied Pipers are going to be the dang number 1 team in the state come Monday. And like for Texas high school football, we get so used to the same teams that like whenever this new team goes up to number 1, I was like, whoa. Really, you guys? It's going to be you. That's like really, I don't know. That excites me whenever we have these new programs. Not new programs. Hamlin's been around a long time and they've had great success. But a program that hasn't necessarily been at that level in quite some time, getting up there, that's exciting. And I think that in a 2A Division II race last week with both Mart and Falls City, they'll be back. Don't worry. But I think that injects a little bit of intrigue to maybe something that was otherwise it felt like. A bit of a foregone conclusion that it was going to be Mart and Falls City in a semifinal, and whoever wins that's going to win the title.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I know that in the midst and the maelstrom of everything that happens on a Friday night, that moment, that aha moment for you, we were sitting beside each other when you said that. You were like, "Who's going to be number 1?" You started looking, and you looked at me, and your eyes got big as saucers, and you said, Hamlin! Like it was the big awakening there, the big epiphany. It's Hamlin. It's going to be number 1. I think it's a great story as well, and I am curious to see how they do going forward with that. But it is going to be it's going to be interesting because the competition is going to be tough. But I do think they're a solid choice to be won, and they are a solid contender as the season goes forward. We'll see. And as we've always said, with small school kids, we'll see how they hold up health-wise, too.
Apologies to the Grandview Zebras who have to relinquish their crown as the best mascot in the number 1 spot in our rankings. The Pied Pipers have come and taken it. All right, so moving forward to Week 3. And Week 3, I would say that the schedule is probably not as deep with really headline-grabbing games. But I want to talk to you about 2 particular games. First and foremost, let's talk about a game in the DFW Metroplex that I think is going to give us a good shape of what 5A Division I looks like, and that is Highland Park and Frisco Lone Star. Matt Stepp had an incredible stat yesterday that Highland Park has not lost a home game to a Texas team since 1998. But Frisco Lone Star looks the part right now, and my thoughts on this game, and I'm interested certainly in yours, my thoughts are we will find out if it is Highland Park in the field or if it is just a knockdown, drag-out fight to the finish. Because I feel like if Highland Park comes out and wins this game, and especially if they win this game comfortably, we can maybe, I don't want to say close the book on 5A Division I, but we can at least say, okay, we have a favorite, and until they say otherwise, it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, if you have a coin, flip it between that game and Newton West Orange Start as to what is the best matchup of the week in the state of Texas. And I don't know which one you could pick, and I might be inclined to go with the 5A route as well. I think you're right with regard to do we find out if it's HP and the rest of the field. I don't know that it's necessarily to that, unless, like you say, if it's lopsided, because Ryan is still sitting there, although they have yet to prove they can get past the big blue and gold hump when it gets there in the postseason. But, and then Shadow Creek I asked you the other day, and I gave you the multiple choice on which team looked the scariest out of 5AD1, and one of them was Shadow Creek, and you went with the Sharks. And I'm not inclined to disagree with you at all the way they're playing right now. So, but, again, that would be a rematch in a state championship, which would be fun. So I don't know if it's HP and the quote unquote the rest of the field, depending on what they do, because we wouldn't see them in a matchup with Shadow Creek until it would be a rematch of a state final. But a statement win for Highland Park, in other words, if they go ahead and put their stamp of dominance on Lone Star, then at least it might be Highland Park in the field on the top half of the bracket.
Finally, a game that I think may be flying under some radars right now, I think because they're both 1-1, and they both, let's be honest, didn't look great in week 1. But Cedar Park has to get on a bus for 3 hours and 15 minutes and drive to San Angelo Stadium out there in the beautiful Concho Valley and take on San Angelo Central. I'm really intrigued by this game. I know this is in your neck of the woods down there in Austin with Cedar Park. I feel like this is San Angelo Central is kind of a known brand. People know because they are the big 6A program out there in that part of the world. They kind of suck up a lot of the oxygen out there. Cedar Park, I feel like if they go out there and they beat San Angelo Central, we're going to forget about that Vandegrift loss pretty quickly, because that would just everything as far as playing a 6A, going on the road, probably their longest road trip since they played Ennis in the title game in 2014. I feel like that would be a really signature win for Carl Absek and company to do that on the road against what we still think, even with a bad week 1 loss, is a pretty good San Angelo Central team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And remember last year, Cedar Park started the season also 0-2. So they had started off with the loss to Vandegrift and then had the loss afterwards to Cedar Ridge, and then turned it around with the win over Central. Now, that was a home game, so getting on the bus and going the 3 hours plus, especially if you go far in the market 1431, because that's just a winding far in the market road until you get all the way up there, to Marble Falls, and then you're winding. Anyway, point is, it would take you a while to get out there. If they have a decisive win there, then you say, yeah, they're already back. I think we've seen signs with them that the Black Rain defense has returned. They got burned on some plays against Vandegrift, but made a few stops against Cedar Ridge. They did a great job on Deuce Ball, the Raiders running back. Held them, 43 yards on 12 carries. Did an excellent job on him. So they're still looking to get the offense completely on track, but Ryder Hernandez is more and more comfortable there with the offense. In a side note that's interesting here, Tep, in 13-6A, they begin district play this week. Vandegrift plays Cedar Ridge to open district play. Mm-hmm. So we'll get a little bit of a look there. But I think you're right. It's a test more to see what happens with Cedar Park and how they do going out west.
He is Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. You can listen to him on the Horn in Austin, and of course, calling all of the Texas Longhorns action. And then, if you want to watch an actual broadcast professional on Friday nights, tune in to an 11 p.m. with Craig Way and Rick Renner on High School Scoreboard Live. I will be tagging along as well. Craig, appreciate your time as always, pal, and I guess I will see you Friday in the studio.
When we both step aside and leave it to the one and only Rick Renner, because after all, it is Rico's world.
It is Rico's world, and we are just living in it, pal. I appreciate it, man.
You got it.
There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Joins us every Tuesday here on Texas Football Today. Tuesday at 12:20 is what we're going to call it. If you want to mark your calendar, put it in your Palm Pilot. If you put it in your Palm Pilot, you won't forget that Craig Way is on the show Tuesdays at 12:20. So we appreciate his time. We are...